Hello, everyone, and welcome to another community conversation on the health crisis in WH.
Of personnel.
That's a great
Another
question,
element
and I would
is
direct
well,
them to the
thinking outside the box, trying to come up with ways of
as you
moving.
already mentioned, the city is
Let's try to keep these numbers from doubling.
At over 33,
It's really important that hope you're watching at home.
First, I want to say thank you for inviting me to the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another community conversation here on Facebook Live. I'm Mayor Eric Pappenfuss. It's good to see you all. It must be Friday at noon. Today, we've got a great show. We are going to talk about economic development in the city of Harrisburg. Specifically, we're going to profile 7 projects that are all applying for what's called the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program. It's a state-funded grant program that helps economic development. We've got some great projects here in Harrisburg, and I thought you at home ought to know a little bit more about them. We're going to be joined on the show by Mark Karowski, who's the CEO of the historic King Mansion. We also have Adam Most, who is the owner of Mighty Group Holdings, which purchased the Hudson Building. We also have Thaddeus D'Ambrosia, grant coordinator for the Scottish Rite. We have Gary Gilliam with The Bridge. We have Melinda Hivner, who is the Vice President and Controller of Presbyterian Senior Living. Ted Black with the Whitaker Center for the Arts. And Mark Woolley, who's the Business Administrator for the City of Harrisburg. Again, we've got some really exciting projects to talk about. And at the end, we will take your questions. So a great show here today. But as always, we're going to start with a few general announcements. And I want to begin with a slightly sobering one, which is that the latest BioBot report numbers show that our incidence rate in Harrisburg is now creeping up, and that we are back again above the median national sample size. That's significant because that is mirroring a trend of increased positive testing for COVID-19 throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And it's something which, if we don't keep in check, could lead to numbers closer to what we saw earlier in the year. Right now, BioBot is estimating we're at 20 new cases a day in the Capital Region water area. And again, that is up significantly from the last several weeks. It's not a cause to panic, but it is a cause for us, I think, all to remember that we're not through the woods regarding COVID-19. We're about to enter into, or we're already into flu season and the fall. And it's important that everyone continue to take the necessary safety measures. I'll also note that Harrisburg Academy just shut down this week with an outbreak in their high school. Central Dauphin busing has stopped. And we've got to all be careful. I'd argue it's not the right time to return to fall athletics, but that's not a decision for the city to make. And if we are going to do it, we need to all remember to continue to be socially distant, to wear masks, and to recognize that we don't want another resurgent, which is going to force additional lockdown and business closures. So that's where we are, right on the precipice of flu season, and we're very closely monitoring that BioBot data. We had BioBot on the show last week, so if you have any questions about that, pull up the archive, and you can, on YouTube, take a look at how they make their calculations and learn a little bit more about wastewater epidemiology. In terms of general announcements, more positive ones, tonight is our final night for movies in the park. It is going to be Zootopia at Reservoir Park. It begins at 7 o'clock. Bring your picnic, bring your chairs. You can spread out, be socially distant, and enjoy a fun movie for the whole family. Those have really been great, and I hope people will come out for our final one, looking like, fingers crossed, the weather's going to be okay. This Monday is, of course, an observed holiday for the city. So as a reminder, the Martin Luther King Governmental Center will be closed to the public. Our hours of the operation, as you know, are 8:30 to 2:30. And as a reminder as well, the Treasury is only open on Wednesdays in person from 8:30 to 2:30, although there is a drop box which can be used every other day. But City Hall will be closed on Monday. And we are hard at work on our grab and grow trick-or-treat night plans. And I want to give a big shout out this week to Hershey, which has stepped up to donate an amazing amount of candy. I also want to thank Giant. I want to thank the DID, and I want to thank others who are helping us. We're going to have what I hope will be a really nice package of things to give people. Remember, we're not doing a citywide trick-or-treat due to CDC guidelines, but we will have the ability for kids from 5 to 7 to come out to each of the 3 fire stations in Harrisburg. Those, again, are in Uptown on North 6th Street, in Allison Hill on 13th and Howard, and also in Allison Hill on 16th Street. And you can go to more than one fire station, and you can come and collect candy. We'll have people enforcing social distance in the lines, and it'll be a great opportunity just to have a little bit of fun in a safe manner. So grab and go trick-or-treat night is planned for the Thursday before Halloween, which is 10/29 from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. More on that as we continue to accumulate candy. And also a reminder, if members of the public have candy that they purchased and would like to donate it, as long as it's in the original wrapping containers, you can donate those multi-packs and whatnot to Harrisburg City Hall. You can just come down during our regular business hours, and we will use them to distribute to Harrisburg residents. So that's a great opportunity if you already bought your candy and you're a little disappointed that there won't be door-to-door trick-or-treat this year. Also wanted to make it clear that today is the last day for you to turn in your applications to participate in this year's Reverse Holiday Parade. That's right, we're doing a Reverse Holiday Parade on November 21st on City Island from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., which means that the parade participants stay in place and the observers actually get to drive through the parade. It's going to be fun, and we've actually had a tremendous amount of response. So we'll have to close that response today. So if your organization is watching, there's still time, but after that, we're going to close the participants and set the lineup for the holiday parade. And leaf cleanup, which we talked a little bit about here recently as well, is continuing. And just a reminder that leaves are picked up on the day of your street sweeping. So you can bag those leaves in those compostable paper bags, put them out at the curb on street sweeping day in your neighborhood, and we will pick them up. That's very active and ongoing. And that will continue here right into the beginning of December, depending on weather and snow and everything else. And then finally, from an announcement standpoint, a reminder that the census is still ongoing. The final deadline for filling out the census is October 31st. We are lagging behind as a city. We're lagging behind our percentage totals from 2010, and we've got to see if we can close that gap. Every person needs to be counted. It's easy to do. You can call by phone. We'll give you that phone number again, which is 844-330-2020, or you can go to 2020census.gov. It'll just take a couple minutes, and your being counted will result in thousands of dollars coming back to the community in the form of federal and state and other types of aid. So please fill out that census, and let's see if we can get a little closer to where we were 10 years ago. All right, those are the announcements for today, and we are going to turn our attention to profiling the 7 projects we mentioned at the beginning. Again, the RCAP, it's called, or RCAP, is the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program. It is a grant program administered by the state, and it is designed for economic development. We're fortunate to have a number of eligible projects, all proposing funding via this grant program this year. We are going to hear the results of who is selected this month in October. It's not entirely clear when, but probably by the end of the month, certainly before the election. And I thought it would be good for you, the public, to learn a little bit more about the projects. So we're going to start with Mr. Mark Karowski, who you may know from the Capital Region Water Board, but who also is in charge of the historic King Mansion. So, Mark, first of all, let's situate us. What and where is the historic King Mansion? Who was Mr. King? And I know a lot of people are going to recognize it once you start explaining the historic King Mansion, but maybe they don't know its history.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So Historic King Mansion is located at 2201 North Front Street. So it's just a few blocks north of the governor's mansion. It's a 1920s era building constructed by, who's actually an attorney named Horace King. Mr. King was married to a daughter of the Vanderbilts, and they chose that particular spot in the river because it reminded her of one of the Vanderbilt estates on the Hudson. You can actually see there's kind of a certain set of riffles in the river at that location. But yeah, it's the 1920s era, started originally as a residence, and has gone through a couple of iterations as different businesses to its current configuration, which houses my engineering business, which is K&W, but is predominantly now used for weddings and events.
That's great. And if people drive by, as I think I did this morning, they'll notice a beautiful tent. And I take it you're doing outdoor weddings and other types of activities.
Absolutely. Yes. You'll see periodically we have tents in the front yard. We do indoor, little limited on indoor events, obviously in the current situation, but outdoor events in our front yard. We're going through some significant improvements that will actually allow us to do indoor events somewhere around probably 225, maybe slightly more. Awesome. That's a great segue. There's some imagery of what the proposed improvements will look like when we're finished.
No, that's great. That's beautiful. All right, well, Mark, take us through your application.
So what we proposed in our application for RCAP is about a $2.7 million project, predominantly focused on completely renovating the first floor of the mansion. The images that you're seeing are all that first floor, what the final condition will look like. Again, this is to be predominantly used for weddings. But we're absolutely looking at doing corporate events during the week. We have already done quite a few nonprofits, political events. We just love having people in the building. It's just a gorgeous, beautiful, old, well-maintained, historic building. As I mentioned, we'll probably have somewhere around a capacity, a little over 220 to 230 people in the ballroom. The improvements include a lot of cosmetic work, but there's quite a bit of infrastructure happening here. Because of our change of occupancy, we had to actually install a new sprinkler system, install one. There was never a sprinkler system in this building. So that's a pretty significant cost, but required for code and safety. And along with that, there are quite a bit of HVAC improvements in terms of energy efficiency, replacing quite a bit of old boilers and piping, and just generally improving the utility efficiency within the building. That's a good chunk of what's in the RCAP application as well. That's the majority of the improvements at this point.
So I think it's great. And obviously creating a space for events and functions like this is important. How would you characterize the economic impact of if you were to receive this grant and to move forward?
Enormous. I mean, a building certainly a historic building like this, when you start trying to do things like retrofitting, current requirements for ADA accessibility and sprinkler systems and new HVAC, it's a bit daunting. The economic impact, I can't overstate the help that RCAP would make this project go. It's very difficult to try and take on a project like this without that type of assistance. And certainly we know, and as part of our application, that we truly see that the benefit coming out of the improved facility here is manyfold. It is additional economic development spin-off through the city in terms of hospitality, places for folks that are coming in town for weddings. Because quite honestly, we get a lot of folks that come in from outside the city, spin-off businesses like restaurants and other retail and commercial activities. But also, we're firmly rooted in this community, and being able to utilize this facility for, like I mentioned earlier, we hosted Derby Days event for Jump Street last year. We've hosted and talked to HYP about doing events. We've worked with folks like Shalom House here in the city. We love getting nonprofits and folks that need the bigger space. Happy to get them in there at a discounted, if not free rate, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all that you do, and kudos for taking a building which I think many would have looked at and said, "Oh my, what can we do with a giant mansion?" And bringing it back to life, and then planning additional new life through the creation of this great potential event space. So, thanks for sharing your project with us this morning. Really appreciate it. Great. We're going to go next to Adam Most, who is the owner of Mighty Group Holdings. We're going to talk about a different building, similar scale to the King Mansion, but certainly not currently in a state of anything close to historic preservation. It's going to be a lot of work. But Adam, why don't you start with us and tell the viewers a little bit about the Hudson building and its history and what attracted you to all the potential.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This building is from 1923. It was the old railroad worker building, 6th and Maclay. The viewers in the city would know this as kind of the anchor of Harrisburg that really starts the Camp Curtin neighborhoods. Has a long history and tradition, through that whole area. For me, it's one of the corridors into the city. So those that are coming in and out and those that live in the city probably pass it every day and really hadn't recognized it over the last 20 years since it's been idle. What attracted me to the property is that, 45,000 square foot building right in the heart of the city that's been sitting empty, and a lot of potential for growth on really an open template of possibilities. And that's what was exciting, when we purchased the building. Really the idea to get a lot of the community voice and really find out how best to utilize that space. It's rare to have such a large property, again, in the heart of the city, and we're excited to see what we can bring there.
Yeah, great. We're so excited to see the interest in this building, especially as you say, it really is a gateway to that portion of the city, and it has sat dormant for a long time. I think Moment's got some pictures of the current state of the building, as well as an elevation of what the exterior could look like. One of the interesting aspects about this building, from what I understand historically, is that it was originally built to potentially be able to sustain additional upper floors, right, and to go vertically higher. And that was a vision that never happened. So I guess the bones of the building are good. But why don't you walk us through what you're seeing now and what your vision is for the renovation and redevelopment of the property?
Yeah, absolutely, Mayor. One of the exciting parts about the building is that it may appear abandoned, and it is, but the bones and the structure are very strong. And as you pointed out, it was intended to be a 15-story building that was going to house the railroad workers that were moving in and out of the area. So one of the unique spots is, we have the new federal courthouse being built a few blocks away. And we're looking at the footers of this building, and they're very, like this thing can handle us going up. So really, in the long run, the idea is to restore, the infrastructure as is. We're in the process of hopefully going to start demolition of the interior of the building. There's a few photos there, but this is an entire building that needs to be, there is no running water, there is no electric. All the walls have to come down inside. But the idea is to really get an empty floor plan. And what's unique is there's actually 3 stories to this already existing, 2 that you can see from the street, and the elevation goes down, and there's actually a 3rd floor that goes all along the bottom. So there's a lot of space. And for us, that's the first phase. I have the vision of what I think this building could be. And I think by getting this to a safe building, good roof, shore up all the infrastructure and really remove everything inside, we're going to have a lot of square footage and really a lot of ability to dream of what we want to do in this space. Some of the ideas that have been thrown out there is an education component, a grocery component is, what I'm really excited about the possibility of. And then really, getting the voice of the community. Does a coffee shop, would that do well up there? Is there some local small business voices that might have an enterprise or an interest in this building? And I think that's what I'm most excited about, is to really kind of grow into this over the next few years and see how best we can serve Harrisburg.
Yeah, it is exciting, and the building has all that frontage right there on 6th Street, and it could be. I could imagine a wonderful number of different types of uses, and clearly, really the sky's the limit. Can you talk a little bit about why this grant program, the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program, is important for a project like this?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think for projects of this scale, the cost of it just grows quickly as you start to take on these things. And what's nice about this program is it allows us to get started soon on the demo side of this, which is part of our application, making sure the roof is stabilized. And then allows all the work that we do inside of it, to really move at a more efficient pace than waiting, for instance, the RACP to come through and some other items that we're applying for. Programs like this allow us to, hit the ground fast. And I think that's what's most exciting about the ability of the city to help on these fronts. Because I think even that area and that improvement of the corridor, I think it will get the excitement of that area, moving really fast. We're talking the next few months to start moving on some things. So, and I think that will just start to cause momentum in that whole area of Camp Curtin, which I love. So, very excited by it. And it's a great opportunity for us to reinvest in Harrisburg.
Okay, well, thanks, Adam. Thanks for sharing your vision in the project with us. That is one that we're all very closely watching in Harrisburg, and we're very excited for. We're going to go further uptown now to the Scottish Rite, and I want to introduce Thaddeus D'Ambrosia, the grant coordinator with the Scottish Rite. I think everyone knows where the Scottish Rite is located. They're next to the Zembo Temple. It is another grand building in certainly a much greater state of repair. A lot of improvements have been made to the building already. But Thaddeus, can you talk a little bit, as the others have, a little bit about the history of the Scottish Rite, how long it's been there, and what sort of things it's done?
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon, everyone. The Scottish Rite Cathedral and Masonic Temple has been at 2701 North 3rd Street since 1954. It replaced a similar building that was located on Capitol and North Streets, which is now the site of the Pennsylvania Historic and Museum Commission. Mm-hmm. So it's got a little bit of history there with downtown. It was designed to accommodate the growth of Freemasonry at the time in the 1950s and 60s. And there you can see the front of the building, some of the style of the construction. Freemasonry was booming back at that time. Approximately 17,000 members. This is the lobby of the theater. And you can see some of the detail of, there's a lot of craftsmanship. That's a stained glass ceiling there. It houses a 1,250 seat theater. With 12 by 12 video screens. That's the view from the stage. The largest stage. It is the largest fixed stage in central Pennsylvania for theaters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people have probably been over the years, maybe took in a nutcracker at the holiday season, or have been there for other events. And I know that there have already been a lot of improvements that have been made over the years to the building. But let's delve specifically into your RCAP application. What are you proposing?
Sure. You're correct. The building has been well maintained over the last 65 years. And there are some capital intensive things that need to be upgraded. It's got the original HVAC system. It's got the original roofs on it, of which there are 17 actually in the building, original windows. And there are some maintenance issues and restoration issues that need to be taken care of in the theater. We've begun doing those already. with some funds that we have available for maintenance. But that the RACP would be primarily for some of the major things that need done with the building.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a common theme here, which is that especially some of these larger, aging historic structures in Harrisburg have tremendous fixed costs, and the benefits to the community are clear, but those costs can really overwhelm any individual or organization which is trying to maintain them. I guess it would be fair to ask, fraternal organizations nationally seem to be perhaps not as popular as they once were. Are we seeing any type of revival currently, or and basically how do you plan to continue to keep your organization going in the future?
That's a very good question. Yes, there is somewhat of a revival. However, it's not at the rates that were seen back when these buildings came about and the need for the buildings came about. So bearing that in mind, we have to kind of reinvent ourselves in what we do. Instead of having mostly fraternal events occur, we're now trying to get more community gatherings, entertainment gatherings, weddings, corporate events, things of that nature, because we've got this great asset, this building with all this room and the 1,200 seat auditorium and the 500 seat ballroom, and there are ways that we can make that available to the public more. And that's what we've been doing over the last years in hosting more events and weddings. Is trying to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and I think the economic impact again is clear. You bring people into the city. They not only experience the Scottish Rite, but they get an opportunity to see Harrisburg and explore Harrisburg and spend money in Harrisburg. So so thank you, Thaddeus, for that description. And we are going to move on now to Gary Gilliam, who is the CEO of The Bridge. And I got to hand it to you guys at The Bridge. This is probably the project which the community already knows the most about, because you've done just a tremendous amount of outreach. And in fact, we were just on City Council Zoom just this past week, in which we were proposing a zoning amendment to allow for a zoning change for this. But the bridge is currently at the site of the old Bishop McDevitt School. I think people know that. But Gary, can you talk a little bit about the history of the building? And we'll start there with the historical context.
Yeah, building was built in 1930. The original core of the building had an extension in 1956 and another one in 1962. As you stated, it was the former location of the Bishop McDevitt High School, and they left in 2013. So well maintained up until then, and then it's been abandoned since 2013. So we're looking to redevelop it.
Yeah, and unlike the other projects, you're changing the use, which is hence the zoning change amendment, and you're basically taking what was an educational use and completely transforming it. So let's talk a little bit about the bridge. What is your vision for this space?
Yeah. So the Bridge Eco Village is comprised of 5 different branches: work, eat, live, learn, and play, as you can see here. And this is just another take on a mixed-use development, but doing essentially everything that you do in a day on one site. And that leads to the sustainability aspect of the bridge. More specific to the RCAP, that's heavily involved in that work branch as well as that learn branch. I'll go over all of them, but then I'll lay in heavier into those ones. So the work aspect is a co-working space, a maker space, a space for incubation, acceleration for startups. The Eat branch is actually an urban farm to conquer the fact that Harrisburg is a food desert. We want to transform it into a food oasis. So actually growing food on site to be able to feed upwards of 130,000 people. The live aspect is housing on site, not just affordable housing, not just luxury housing, but everybody mixed together. The learn aspect is actually to teach job training, financial literacy, lay the foundation for true generational wealth based off of financial literacy. So teaching people how to repair their credit, leverage that for an FHA loan to be the ones that are controlling some of the development going on in the city on a real estate aspect and a residential level. The play aspect is trying to relieve the point of pain of dirt bikes and ATVs driving through the streets. Let's provide an area, a space, an outlet, if you will, a year-round sports complex, electric go-karts, concerts, virtual reality, the like. So these big buildings that are in great areas can be converted into these more sustainable mixed-use developments. And this sustainable aspect comes through the EAT branch, actually, and that's for the entire building. Solar panels, looking to not just be net zero, but to be net positive in our energy consumption, creating a smart grid for Harrisburg, collecting water, so water collection for our farming aspect as well as the gray water and our rainwater gardens that are on site. So looking to be net zero in our water consumption. And then in terms of waste as well as carbon, we can actually take in green food waste, put it through our composting system, and use that in our farm as well. So closing all those loops and doing essentially what development should have done years ago, but taking all the technologies that we have now and reinventing some of these buildings with good bones.
Yeah, that is the theme here. We have buildings like this, and I have to hand it to you because I think a lot of people sort of looked at this building and couldn't figure out what to do with it. Knew it was no longer going to be a school, and your vision is tremendously ambitious. It's exciting. It involves a lot of community input. It's been extremely well received. Let's talk a little bit about the financing and the cost of it, though. So you're applying for the RCAP. What will the RCAP allow you to do, and how does it fit in the overall financing structure for the project?
So more specifically to that co-working space, very similar to the other projects you heard about, getting the HVAC system up, sprinkler system, getting the roof right so that the space is safe. Those are the initial things that we'd like to be doing with that RCAP money. And that's just one portion of the full capital stack for the entire building. But getting that initial funding in there is paramount to kind of allowing the project to proceed. And felt it very appropriate to apply for grants, public and a private partnership. We've got private investors too, obviously, but looking to get the public involved, the community, obviously, as you stated. And in terms of economic development, it's not just, trying to bring people into the city, but educating those that are in the city. Come to this space. If you have a business idea, here's a space for you to have incubation, acceleration, have synergy, and get the programming that you need to not just create jobs, but create those who create the jobs to spur a true economic development.
Yeah, it's a terrific vision and really a wonderful project. So thanks for continuing to share it and really appreciate you taking the time to do that with us today. We are going to now go, I guess, back downtown, and we're going to talk a little bit about Presbyterian Senior Living. We are joined by Melinda Hivner, who's the Vice President and the Controller. Melinda, let's situate us as well. So where are we, and what is the history of your building?
Sure. Thank you for having me today. So Presbyterian Apartments is located at 322 South 2nd Street, just a few blocks away from the Capitol. So it's in a prime spot. It's a 23-story high-rise, and we've owned it since it was developed in the mid-'60s.
Yeah, a very visual landmark, beautiful views of Harrisburg and the river, and caters to senior living. So, can we talk a little bit about your residents? Who are they, and how they come to live at Presbyterian Apartments?
Sure. If you don't mind, I'll just give you a little background. Yeah. So Presbyterian Apartments is actually owned by Presbyterian Senior Living. We are a nonprofit. We provide housing, healthcare, and supportive services to our seniors for all faiths for over the past 90 years. Our headquarters is actually located in Dillsburg, just a few minutes away from downtown Harrisburg. And we serve more than 6,000 seniors in over 30 locations in the Mid-Atlantic region. So Presbyterian Apartments is one of those locations that we have. Our mission to our seniors is to provide compassionate, vibrant, and supportive community services and communities in general, so that they have a wholeness of body, mind, and spirit.
That's so. No, I was just going to say that's so important and really essential for everything that we're trying to do. But let's get specifically into your proposed RCAP. What would it do?
I appreciate that. So this community is 165 studio and one-bedroom apartments for seniors. One of our counterparts that we work with on a regular basis is the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, and in their community housing study, they have noted that the senior population is critically undermet, and so it's our mission to try to help with that and take our part in helping our seniors. So we have continued to put in improvements to this project. We've had it since it was opened in the 60s. But capital improvements are expensive, and we are a nonprofit. So our gross revenues on an annual basis are just over $1 million. And with the increased maintenance for an aging building, it's hard for us to break even. So it's even harder for us to be able to put in significant capital improvements. So we are specifically looking for this funding to try to help us with what many of these projects are doing with the infrastructure. Specifically updating the electrical systems that have not been updated since the building was opened, improve the HVAC system, replace the roof, and just do some additional interior cosmetics for the benefit of the residents. The nice thing about our project is that it is an existing building, it is in operation, and so we are shovel ready, and we would be able to start these improvements immediately if awarded.
Yeah, as the viewers at home, I think, can tell, we have different states of these buildings. Some completely abandoned, and others occupied. Another difference here with your building is, of course, that we're dealing with a skyscraper, sort of a vertical structure, and the other buildings we've all talked about are sort of these sprawling horizontal structures. Do you want to talk a little bit about the challenges of maintaining a tall building on a relatively small city lot?
Sure. This is one of our most challenging locations because of the 23 stories going vertical. We, especially with the senior aging population, we have to be very critical of what we keep maintained. Obviously, elevators are critical in this building for our seniors, because even not for seniors, for myself, I don't think I'd want to walk 23 stories every day if I didn't have to. But those electrical services keep this building running, and keep our residents, being able to just enjoy their comfortable apartments. And so we just recently did one of the major renovations we've done on our own was we replace those windows. And, it's always a different complication when you're dealing with a high rise, making sure that structure is sound and effective and efficient for their benefit in the future.
Yeah, I've been in the building before, and really those windows are key to the views. But it must have been just a monumental project to have to do that. I have no idea how many linear feet of glass would have had to have been replaced, but it's a lot. Well, for all those that drive by the building and wonder perhaps a little bit more about it now they know. And thank you, Melinda, for updating us on the project and for doing such good work for our seniors here in Harrisburg and the region. We will go next to Ted Black, who is the CEO of the Whitaker Center for Science and the Arts. And Ted, you have the distinction of having the most recent structure to be applying for an RCAP. But let's talk a little bit about the history of the Whitaker Center, just to help put us in context.
Thank you, Mayor, and it's good to see you again, and good afternoon, everyone watching. Whitaker Center's birthday is probably the easiest birthday in the world to remember. It is 9/9/1999. So we are entering our 21st year. Whitaker Center is a 140,000 square foot multicultural facility. It really is composed of three major parts, if you will. One is a 700-seat performing arts theater, known as the Sunoco Performing Arts Theater. The other is the Select Medical Digital Cinema. Originally, it was a IMAX brand. It's no longer an IMAX brand. It's actually been upgraded to digital and now laser projectors. That's a 200-seat giant screen. It's the largest screen in central Pennsylvania for movies and a lot of other things that we'll talk about as well. And then the third major component is the Harsco Science Center, which those of you have been in this area, you've probably been here for school field trips and taking your kids and grandchildren to enjoy the Science Center. Those are the three main areas of the Whitaker Center.
Yeah, that's great. And maybe before we talk about the RCAP, how are you doing? How are we doing through the COVID crisis? And how are you maintaining operations?
Thank you for asking that. It's been a challenge. I think all the nonprofits anywhere, it's been a challenge. I read some disturbing statistics that museums, maybe up to a third of all museums globally, might not reopen. We're fortunate with Whitaker Center. When the crisis hit, we put together a 7-point plan to get through this. The first part of that plan was to power down, literally and figuratively, and like everyone else, businesses, households, and nonprofits, is to really conserve cash. We're doing well. We're in the process of looking to gradually reopen on weekends next month. So you'll hear more about that. We've been able to participate with Representative Patty Kim's Community Classrooms project. So we've actually welcomed some kids in here to help them navigate this most challenging year from an education standpoint that they may ever have. And we've also done a great job shifting to the virtual. We're offering virtual field trips this year. We've done some things with the racial and equity discussion, the social issues that are so prominent right now, doing some things with Big Brothers Big Sisters, to do some things virtually for kids, to have folks that look like them, that are professionals to look up to. And that's really important for impressionable kids to realize that they can really do anything, and they just need a role model. So providing that and doing programs like Talks with Docs, very similar, giving kids of color, young women, the opportunity to interact with medical professionals, to have that something in mind with their future career aspirations.
Yeah, thanks for all that you do. And we can put in a plug and say we also were able to keep a summer camp program going, and we were able to host some of your summer camp students right here at Channel 20. We're going to give moments.
It was amazing. Exactly. And it was amazing to see how quickly the kids are sponges. Yeah, it was amazing working with your team, how quickly the kids, after about 15 minutes of instruction, they're probably able to step into your studio right now and run that control board. It was really amazing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They could be running the show, and that was fun, and we appreciate it. But let's delve into your RCAP, because it's a little different than some of the others. What are you proposing?
There's a similar part of it, and then a very, very different part. The similar part seems like, if you're not in the roofing business, you better get in it, because we all need new roofs. Our roof is 20 years old. It's like some of the others, we probably patch and pray quite a bit. And we also have a phase 2 of our HVAC upgrade. Phase 1 was, to use an analogy, the brains, the controls. Phase 2 is going to be the lungs. What you're looking at here, about to look at, is the other part of our RACP request, and that is converting 2 areas that are really underutilized in the Whitaker Center. One to your left there is for some people referred to as the old Starbucks. Had a later life as a sandwich shop that abuts into the Arcade Skyway connecting Strawberry Square and the Hilton. And then the other area is the old museum store, the Wonder Store. What we want to do is to convert these two areas and reimagine them into what we're calling the Innovation Studio at Whitaker Center. And if you see on the next slide, what that representation would be. And what this will be, it'll be separated into two separate zones. One zone will be called the Purposeful Gaming Zone. And that area will be anything from esports, which is something that Whitaker really started in central Pennsylvania, and it's gone like gangbusters. But it'll also be more than just video games. It'll introduce kids to coding. It'll introduce kids to educational and spatial reasoning and everything else you can do with a computer. And the super exciting thing about what we have is it's going to tap into our existing infrastructure. So if you look to the left of that graph, right there, to the right rather, of that graph, that's where our giant screen Select Medical Digital Cinema is. And so if kids are in this purposeful gaming area, maybe they're working on Minecraft and they're doing some educational projects and then they're recording them. The class could then go into the digital cinema and see it on a 40-foot high screen. And to give you a sense of how big that screen is, it's actually larger than the Green Monster wall at Fenway Park. The other part of this, and we're not going to, we want to work closely with your team some more on this too, Mayor, is we want this to be an interactive media area where we can do some production, have a green screen, certainly not the scale that you're sitting in right now, but to be able to have kids, like I said earlier, it really opened our eyes how quickly these kids and how technologically savvy they are with some instruction that they can pick up on it. So the interactive media zone will be anything from user-produced content. It'll be our education team doing experiments and recording them. We want to have an area to do podcasts and video vlogs. There's so many artists that come through Harrisburg, and it'd be so fantastic to be able to have an opportunity to sit down with them and talk about their music, talk about what has inspired them, share some of the stories behind their songs. And then we see this whole area really working well with the other investments that we've made over the years to take us to that next level.
Well, thank you so much, Ted, for sharing that. It's an exciting vision. It really would allow the Whitaker Center to move to the next level. And I think as folks at home can see, we really have a wide array of very interesting projects being proposed for Harrisburg, some nonprofits, some for-profits, some partnerships, really encompassing all sorts of different things, but with the common theme that for large-scale building projects, there is a need and a role for this program. It's a very popular program statewide. It's one which ultimately our elected representatives are going to have the say in. From the city's perspective, we hope we can fund all the projects. But if you're watching at home, Senator John DeSanto, Representative Patty Kim, and the governor's office would be the major decision makers with regard to these fundings. So let them know. And we're gonna turn now to Mark Woolley, who's the business administrator for the city, to discuss our final project today, which has to do with Harrisburg's own City Hall. I should note the city has had some success in the past with this program. We've received two of these grants since I've been mayor. The first was for Mulder Square for infrastructure there, which is actually currently going out to be contracted and will be taking place next year. Has to do with a number of upgrades in that area of the city just over the Mulberry Street Bridge. We also received an initial grant seeding of the Paxton Creek project, which is allowing for acquisition and some improvements there. But our application this year is different because it's looking at, again, an aging, older, large square foot public structure, in this case, Harrisburg City Hall. So, Mark, can you help situate the history of City Hall as you know it a little bit?
Sure. As you know, or may know, that back in the early 80s, the building was christened. And it's a marvelous example of brutalist architecture. I love that name. And it's monolithic and blocky type architecture. And what we have now is an opportunity to really increase accessibility for everyone into the legislative process. If you notice, as you walk into the building now, there's an open space in the atrium, and really want to be able to utilize that space more as a community space for art displays. But importantly, also wanted to add a incubator space as you walk in. Love to be able to act as a nest, as it were, so that we could bring in entrepreneurs, give them a space for 2 or 3 years where they have a business that's right in City Hall, access to a lot of traffic, and then after 2 or 3 years, have them fly away into Harrisburg proper and bring another aspiring entrepreneur into that space. Then we were kind of forward thinking as we look back now, because we were ready. We have the drawings that you see here that were done by Chris Dawson, who's a local architect, and we were ready to go. And then COVID hit, and everything that have impacted everyone on this call and everybody watching happened. And then luckily, our design really incorporated some of the social distancing aspects. And if we focus in on council chambers, right now it's an aged construction, and it doesn't have much space, and it's not very accessible. But what we envision for this space is new technology that will help us do social distancing when we need to, but also when this pandemic, we learn how to live with it, or we find a way to control it, and we're back to meeting on a regular basis. You can see that the new space is very open. We're looking forward to having a new HVAC system, but you can see that it's constructed in such a way that social distancing will be readily apparent and available. But this building, City Hall, the Government Center, is the window in Harrisburg to economic development. We have customers that come in that need zoning, that need to talk to our staff about zoning, talk about codes, and people that are dropping off payments for tax and licensing. And so we want to make it more inviting. And you can see that as you enter the building, we're going to have an atrium, and we're going to have a covered entryway, really to foster that sense of community. And so this is going to be a 4-phase project. We have 4 stories, and we're focusing here for today on the entranceway and city council chambers. But we envision this as being 4 phases, and the second and third phase would really encompass more of the workaday for employees and for customers coming in. But the 4th floor we envision as a more of a community space, and to be open to the public, to really have a place where we come together for various functions, and to make sure that we are able to really carry out the mission and the function of government by inviting people to really take control of their destiny through the legislative process. And I think that one of the main drivers that's really the impetus for a lot of this is to take hold of the namesake of the building, which is the Martin Luther King Government Center, and really pay homage to those really what MLK stood for, is really a community fairness, and accessibility. So the hope for this is to be able to secure this RCAP funding, to leverage other funds that we have, and to ensure that this brutalist building is carried on into the future. But it's a public space, and we want to make sure that it's here for a long time.
Thanks, Mark. I think that was a very comprehensive survey. Yes, we're trying to take the edge off the brutalism, which may be kind to the building. It is not accessible to everyone. It is not open and inviting. It does not honor the legacy of Martin Luther King, its namesake. And in this what will hopefully soon be a post-COVID world, it does not work in terms of circulation of employees or the public. You have a city council chambers, which is basically hidden, which is people get sort of packed in and are unable to to really engage. And this project is about civic engagement and doing it in a way which is going to be for the future, best for the future of the city, both in terms of health and safety. So how about that? Community uses, business incubators, all hopefully coming soon to Harrisburg City Hall. And I think we should note that the project is phased, and we're going to see a portion of this, regardless of the RCAP outcome. It would just work as an accelerator that would allow us to do even more sooner. So thanks, Mark. Thanks for all of your hard work in putting that together, along with Chris Dawson. So, Moment, I think that was a pretty great survey of 7 wonderful projects for the city. Let's hand it over to you and see if we have any questions from the public for any of our guests.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. There's some curiosity as far as the age of the structures. It was mentioned earlier about there being a lot of aging structures. So who wins here with having the oldest structure that they're working with? And we'll just open it up to the room. Who thinks they have the oldest one here?
So, I'm guessing it's going to be a close call, probably between the Hudson Building and, Adam, what year was the Hudson Building built again?
1923.
And the King Mansion, Mark is not on, but I think the King Mansion probably a similar time frame, so possibly a little bit earlier, but 20s, I would guess.
Okay. As far as a question we have for Adam here, what's been the biggest challenge in the restoration and maintenance in your structure, especially with the age of that?
Yeah, I think the one thing and the reason why the building may have been idle for a while is that it is such a large space, and is already, still the rooms are all just sitting there, and there is no electric again, there is no plumbing. So you really have to take this full building, take it down to the bones, and then rework it. So I think that's been one of the biggest challenges, is trying to see this big project. But for me, it's an exciting part because it does open up a very big template for really any idea that we have. Again, the spectrum of brewery, looking at a piece of it, education components, to a coffee shop, to many other things can all fit in this and live in this building. So I think that's the exciting part. And as the mayor pointed out, the usefulness or the uniqueness of it to go up 15 stories, really creates a long-term plan that we are intending to embrace to allow that growth potentially in the future. Everything we do now will allow that down the road. So the challenge, I think, is just taking the whole scope of it and, kind of breaking it down to basics.
Okay. Great, thank you. Next question is for Thaddeus. Regarding the Scottish Rite building, is it still available for people to utilize, to book events, and where can people find out more information about that?
We are under both indoor and outdoor COVID restrictions. I can tell you that since entering the green phase, we've hosted dance recitals in the auditorium, extremely well coordinated and managed. We've hosted weddings in our banquet rooms. We've had some theatrical events as well, and we have some entertainment events scheduled for next month and the month after. They would contact Lee Boltz, is our rental agent at 717-238-8867, and Lee would be able to help them with that.
Okay, great. And the last is a comment by Winnie. She wrote here about the bridge. This is amazing with a lot of exclamation marks. So she's very excited about that. So a lot of exciting things happening.
Yeah, well, thanks, Winnie. That comment, I think, is in keeping with just about all the comments I've heard from the public whenever Gary or anyone associated with the bridge shares that sort of really comprehensive, sustainable vision for what the future of Harrisburg could look like. Well, I want to thank all the guests, and if it were up to me, I'm funding every project in the city of Harrisburg, and I hope the public found it interesting. Again, we should get the results here in the month of October. I'm expecting hopefully multiple awards for the city of Harrisburg's projects. I think they are terrific, and you get a little snapshot of what the future may hold in terms of economic development. I'll also note there are a couple other applications that we weren't able to get on the show today, so this isn't even all of it, but it was certainly more than enough for our hour this afternoon. Next week, we are going to talk about the upcoming elections, so we're going to have an election-centered show. Got that to look forward to, and with that, I am Mayor Eric Papenfuss saying thanks for watching another community conversation on Facebook Live. And until next Friday, I hope everyone stays safe and stays well.